Hi, this is Chef Brad, America's Grain Guy with the Wonder Mill Wonder Mix Company. Wow, do we have a surprise for you today? I'm going to teach you how to make gluten-free yeasted bread. That's a huge one. I've tried a lot of them out there, and if you're like me, they usually end up in the garbage or you gag through it because there's nothing else to eat. We have found that even the squirrels don't like gluten-free bread. It's just nasty, and most of them are full of garbage things. Read the label. They have white rice flour, tapioca starch, a lot of sugar. That's how they get kind of a form of bread. But we're going to show you how to do it the right way. And I am so excited. I've been working on this recipe for a while, and it is the best so far. And we're going to keep working on it. And we'll give you updated new recipes. But right now, this is the best we have to offer you, and you're going to love it. So in our Wonder Mix, we have the dough hook and the divider in there. Now, gluten-free breads, you have to think totally different than regular breads. With regular breads, you throw everything in there, and you have this thick dough that you need until the elasticity gets going. Gluten-free is totally opposite. It's like a thick batter. And just when you're making it, just get in your mind, it's never going to be like regular bread because it doesn't have the gluten in it. Does that make sense? Hopefully it does. And you'll see when we do this just how it works. So in my mill, the first thing I'm going to do is grind up my grains. And I always try to use a combination of 3 or more gluten-free grains. This one has sorghum, brown rice flour, and buckwheat. Some people don't like buckwheat because I like the farmhouse flavor it has. If you don't like buckwheat, choose another grain. It's pretty simple, just a combination of 3 or more grains. That's all it takes. So here we go. We have our mixer here, and we're going to add the ingredients, and the recipe will be listed for you. So here we go, a couple cups of hot water. And then we're going to add 6 eggs. Gluten-free takes a lot of eggs to give it the structure. So we have 6 eggs we're going to dump in there. We have our oil, about 2/3 cup of oil. And we're going to use, for our sweetener, we're going to use agave. Agave is great because it's going to give it an extra lift. It's low on the glycemic index. It's great for baking. So we're going to put some agave in there. There we go. And we have a little bit of salt. You have to have salt in all breads. We're going to put a little bit of salt in there. And we're going to put about 1.5 cups of fresh flax meal. Now, you don't want to grind flax meal in your Wonder Mill. You just grind it in your blender. You take your flax seed, put it in the blender, and it grinds up perfectly. And this is a flax bread. I love it. And flax in this bread has a lot of oils and stuff in it that's really going to help out the texture. So 1.5 cups of this beautiful flax meal. And then we're going to use about 1 cup of potato starch. Okay, this is the only thing we're going to use in there, the potato starch. We're not using the tapioca and the white rice flour, but a little bit of that. I've tried it with and without. With it, it does add to the overall texture of it. And we're adding 1 tablespoon of xanthan gum. Xanthan gum is kind of like the gluten of bread. It doesn't work the way gluten does, but it works a little bit like gluten to give you a rise and a little bit of elasticity. Okay, so we have pretty much everything in there except for our yeast. We're going to take our yeast and dump it in there, and it's about 3 tablespoons of yeast we're going to put in there. And then we have our flour. And this flour, we're not going to add flour until it cleans the size. We're going to put in 6.5 cups of flour. And we can just do this right now. We're going to take our flour. And look how pretty this flour is. Oh my goodness, I love it. The little specks of buckwheat in there. So pretty. 5. Oh, and it smells great. There we go, 6.5. And now we're just going to turn on our mixer. Oh wait, forgot one other thing. Just a splash of balsamic vinegar. That just helps with everything working the way it should. I'm going to turn this on and leave for 6 minutes. The dough has mixed for 6 minutes. Now I'm going to show you the technique for baking it, letting it proof and bake. So I always like to just, when I'm working with the gluten-free dough, moisten my hands a little bit because it's kind of sticky. And we're just going to take out our dough hook and just scrape that dough off there with your wet fingers back into there. And then this was the dough divider we used. With gluten-free, I don't use this with my yeasted breads, but with gluten-free it works well because you have just a different process. So this, we're just gonna kind of call it the gluten-free attachment for right now. There you go. Okay, so now we have our dough in here. And we have our 2 pans. This will make 2 pans, and these are our 2-pound loaf pans that we have. Now, with the gluten-free bread, you don't want to spray or oil the pan. The reason being, this needs to climb up the side of the pan so it'll have its structure. So what I like to do is take a piece of parchment paper long way on the pan and just fold that down in there. And that's going to allow you to be able to lift it out of the pan when it's done baking. So just cut some strips of your parchment and put it in. And then we're going to take our batter and we're just going to spoon it in. And remember, it's a thick batter. Look at that. You're thinking, now that's going to make good bread? Trust us, it makes beautiful bread. You just a whole different process than what we're used to in making yeasted breads. And with the wet finger, it works a lot better. It's very sticky. Just scoop this out of here, and it smells so good with all those grains in there and that flax. If you have smaller loaf pans, that's fine. You want to fill them up about 3/4. We're going to pat this down. It looks like there's more in there now than that, but we're going to pat it down. And you need to have it about 3/4 full. Okay, there we go. Now, I'm just going to take and moisten my hands. And I'm just going to take and pat the dough down in there. And then use your hand to just smooth it out on the top. Make it nice and smooth. Get any air you might have in there. There you go. Wet your hand again. That way it won't stick. Just pat it down in. And you want to place this in a really warm area in your house. If you have 2 ovens, I turn my bottom oven on proofing, or warm it up and then turn it off and place it in the bottom oven. It's going to take a little bit longer to raise than normal bread. Let it rise until it comes over the top, and then bake it in a 350-degree oven for about 25 to 30 minutes. And see what we have here for our gluten-free bread. Oh my goodness, that is beautiful. Look at the texture of that bread. As it cools, it's even going to get better. I love gluten-free bread. Gluten-free has never, ever tasted better than the Chef Brad way with the Wonder Mill and Wonder Mix.